the love and the passion for me is when I can have these iterative conversations and really get creative, not just with e-colors with my business, but with, just, hey, I want to put a different little twist on this, a different little spin. Let's talk about it. And then I end up in a place where I've, literally kind of created a new recipe, having a conversation with my sous chef. And that's what I call it in chat. I created the sous chef.
AI isn't the future, it's now. And whether you're in HR, sales, operations, or leadership, the choices you make today will determine whether you thrive or get left behind. Today on AI Voice of Victim, we have a good friend of mine, longtime friend, not of the pod, but at least of Greg Boone, so hopefully he'll be a fan of the pod in the very near future. Mr. Kerry Prince. Kerry has a career that has spanned across so many different roles, so many job titles, so many different organizations. And he even had a stint on MasterChef 10 years ago. Kerry, I can say a lot because I've known you for a long time. I've known, we've known each other since college. Kerry has the distinction of being 2 days older than me, and he's not let me live that down since I found that out. So Kerry, just introduce yourself. Tell the world who you are, what you're about.
Hello, howdy, welcome. I'm a simple country boy, even though I am in Hollywood, in the land of glitz and glamour right now. Greg is correct. I've held jobs from pretty much everything in a restaurant, from dishwasher to sous chef to manager. In the HR realm, I've done everything from filing papers to, consulting with CEOs. And that's just those two verticals, not to mention sales and other things that I've been able to take on in my life. Part of that is due to family situations. Part of that is due to my my unending need to satiate my ADHD and the fact that I'm part nerd and part artist, and I've had to try to feed both beasts. And I found that culinary was a way for me to do that. And of course, HR, you have your hands in a little bit of everything. You're touching a lot of people and parts of the industry. And that's something that continually, motivates me. But also, and we'll get into this a little bit later, the fact that I can help people just have a good day at work for as much as I can, that really motivates me and keeps me going. But, that's, as I mentioned, half hippie, half nerd, half artist. Actually, that's three halves, so that doesn't work. But I fully embrace all of my dualities and recognizing that, I can work with CEOs, but also I can be on the ground level, work with entry-level staff and really get a feel for what they need and help interpret and bridge those gaps.
That's awesome. I always thought, Kerry, that growing up that you would go into politics.
Yeah.
Like you always had that, Kerry's always had the charisma, he's had the smarts, right? Obviously he's not as deep into math as I am based on how many halves he described. But, but in general, though, I've always respected Kerry for his hustle, his ability to care about the things that matter most, both to him, his family, as well as those that are around him, right? He kind of took me in back in the day and really let me be a part of his school and culture. I actually went to a different school across town, but I hung out with Kerry and friends a lot more than I did with those at my own university. But with that kind of backdrop, Kerry, you are in Hollywood. I've seen you on TV. I was like, man, I know that dude. And people were like, no way. I was like, no, I know that dude. I'm going to text him right now. I know him, right? So you've made a lot of folks proud in a lot of different areas, but, now we're talking a lot about AI. And off camera, we've had some conversations about, kind of how you're using it, how you're seeing it, right? And coming from like an HR background, I'm on a lot of, just last night I was on a speaking panel, and kind of the backdrop was this AI state of the nation. And we were talking about North Carolina's executive order. We had Representative Hawkins from North Carolina talking about the executive order, right? And really trying to make things more fair and equitable and, guardrails and things. So being an HR professional and being out in, the LA area, there's a lot going on, a lot of challenging things, right? But what is the overall vibe of LA and the communities that you're in as it relates to AI? Are people fearful? They're anxious? They're curious?
Yes, all of the above. I think with most new new things, whether it be technology or initiatives or things like that, there is this mix of it all, of fearfulness, of fear of obsolescence, right? Like there are a lot of things that are going on in my particular realm in Hollywood right now. It is more of the latter, right? Like that cold grip of obsolescence, right? I'm going to hold on to every task and everything that I can do because I know that I'm not evolving. I'm not, improving myself. So I know that I'm going to get left behind if I don't really hold on to these things. So it turns into not necessarily, you know, moving away from embracing it, right? But also there's a fear involved with not just the creativity of it. At first, it was like, oh, this isn't real. This is kind of not holding true to the art, and then it kind of moved away from that into more like, oh, wait a minute. If I don't evolve, I may end up getting replaced by someone who does embrace this AI, right? So let me just try to hold on to a little bit of everything. Now, having said that, in the previous industry, I was in the nonprofit healthcare. Surprisingly, there is a lot more adoption there because there are a lot of charts to read. There are a lot of notes to get done, right? And in nonprofit, of course, it never matches. The workload never matches the staff in nonprofit and the need, especially in nonprofit healthcare. Specifically, I was working with those that help those with alcohol and other drug addiction and homelessness. That's just a large population. So just being able to shave and save that little bit of time on notes and reading charts and doing things like that allowed them to have more of a human touch and to get out and really make a difference. So surprisingly, in an area in healthcare where, sometimes people would be maybe some fearful of privacy, other things like that, it's really being adopted because of the workload. And on the Hollywood side, I'm seeing that people are just, they're a little bit fearful because they see that they know that, okay, I can be replaced very easily unless I evolve. And then there's that fear of evolution that comes with most new things. So that's mostly what I'm seeing here. And then, third, the tech lane, of course, being in LA, being in this area, then all the different valleys that are popping up. They want to call everything a new Silicon Valley, right? Everything's popping up. Of course, now we're way past adoption, of course. Now we're into more realms, more trying to find more niche realms to make it to make yourself to cement yourself in the market and to cement yourself in other areas, right? It's really driving down into more niche things. I'm seeing a lot of niche AI things pop up and then go away. So that's what I'm seeing here in La La Land.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to unpack there, so I appreciate that. I mean, you made me smile because just last night, and I hear this all the time here, even in North Carolina, in the Triangle area, we want to be the Silicon Valley of the East, right? Everybody wants to be some slant of Silicon Valley, right? And I was listening to a podcast earlier this year, and they said you can always tell the vibes of a city or a community based on its billboards. And so I spent a lot of time in San Francisco and Austin, Texas this year, and the amount of AI billboards you see when you're going up and down the highway. Now, I'm in North Carolina. I'm in the heart of North Carolina, so there's a lot of gun billboards. I don't know that I've ever seen an actual AI billboard anywhere around here.
Right.
But what I will say is that the tech community is strong. You mentioned nonprofits in healthcare. And I've been spending a lot of time recently. I've been asked to speak about AI to both nonprofits as well as to some folks in the healthcare community. My wife's, two of her sisters they're both nurses, and they both talk about how they're embracing AI a lot more, to your point, right? Because there's so many mundane tasks. One of the things we say quite a bit is let the machines handle the routine and let the humans handle the remarkable. Even last night on stage, Congressman Hawkins referenced with the executive order the idea that doctors should be able to use AI in as you're in these meetings to at least transcribe the notes. The idea that a doctor, you have 1 hour with your primary care and they're spending 20 to 30 minutes typing, a bunch of notes and not actually engaging in having a conversation is ridiculous now, right? And so
100%.
I agree with you on that. And I think one of the challenging things for me, earlier this year, there was a lot of HR professionals, I would call them the AI gotchas, and I would tell them, I said, all you AI gotchas, AI gonna get you, right? Like, and
100%.
but I've seen a massive shift there. Where I've seen a pullback, though, is on folks that I thought would be more into AI, which are creatives and tech folks. And my theory on the pushback is that this is the first time in their careers and in our kind of generation that there's some outside force that's saying this is how you become more productive, right? And they don't like it at one bit. Like, this is my craft, right? So you're in the heart of creativity. What are you seeing? Like, what are the specifics around the pushback in Hollywood and kind of in that community out there?
I think there is a stark and drastic line between one thing, like you're saying, like, let the machine handle the routines, such as, like, say, script coverage. Script coverage is just a thing within studios where they're literally just pounding through scripts, giving a little one-page note for the executive, right? So that usually falls on the lower levels. And there's so many script submissions that come in, so that they're fine to get tossed that, like, I really kind of don't want to do that, so let's let that stay over there. But I like writing. I like being creative, so I don't want this one taken away from me, right? Because this is something I enjoy. I know this part of my job is something that's necessary, so fine, sure, AI, go do that, but stay away from my baby. Stay away from the thing that I hold true, the thing that defines me. A lot of times people, with their particular writing style or whatever they have, whether it be a visual element or whatever it is, that goes into a lot of self-identity, right? And so it's like, I don't want you to touch this thing over here that I use to, help me go to sleep at night. Like, right, like when I lay my head, then I know that I'm a writer and I'm doing these things. But I think a lot of people don't understand. They feel like it's a crutch on the creative side and less of a tool. So it's weird that when you cross that line, it goes from being a tool to a crutch, and you're cheating, right? It kind of just goes there. But I think a lot of that has to do just strictly with that kind of creative element. I want to be the one solely responsible for this. Or if I am partnering with someone else, it was someone I partnered with. It's not me using this. It's like that you want to try to remove any excuses on the back end that, like, I either got this through nepotism, I got this through AI, or whatever. Like, I want to protect my baby. So I think it really is in that right there at the actual artistic creative line is where it starts to get, now I'm a little bit shaky and scary. Once again, on that other side, what specifically for script submissions and script coverage, they're adopting the hell out of that. Like right now, I'm researching a few platforms for my organization because we didn't even want AI note takers on Zooms 3 months ago, Greg. And then as I was like pushing, and some of our assistants, younger interns came in and was like, hey guys, there's really an easier way to do this. And people started to see it. Our older executives who were going to Nine Inch Nails concerts and going to Grateful Dead concerts, like you all are a little bit more, you all are out of touch with the frontline things that are being done now. But once they saw that and they were like, oh, you can give me 5 scripts covered in 5 minutes? Oh yeah, let's do that, please. Thank you. All right. So it's the action, literally it's the showing. A lot of times you just have to do it and show it. There's a lot of risk averse people in Hollywood too, which is interesting, especially in a studio where it's full of people of color and on the front end say that we're boundary pushing. But there is a lot of being risk averse to adopt new things. But once you show them that, of course, it's kind of hard to deny the evidence once you put it in the face.
No, I mean, those are some great points that that you touched on. I was in at HubSpot's Inbound a couple weeks ago, and they had an amazing keynote speaker, Zach Cass. I think he used to be the former head of go-to-market for OpenAI, and he was talking about this emotional identity that people have with their job titles, especially in the U.S., right? And he said that part of the lack of adoption and the challenge that we're facing is that people have identified so much to what they do for a living versus who they actually are and what they care about and their thoughts and their fears, right? That's what he's seeing as one of the bigger challenges, like getting over that emotional hurdle and identifying that way. I think to your point, whether it's the note taking or the scripts, we'll bring it back to HR here in a second because I see a lot of parallels of what you're describing with how people are, what is it, the applicant tracking systems and how people, it's like very similar. They're like, okay, I'm not going to go through hundreds of thousands of resumes, just like I'm not going to go through thousands of scripts in a very manual way anymore. And so I could see those parallels, which brings me to a bigger question. You kind of touched on this a little bit when you talked about kind of race and things. So I'm going to bring this back to a little bit about bias, right? When I have HR professionals, I love to always kind of get their take on how are they looking at these tools? What type of bias are they seeing within these tools? And then what are you doing about that, right? What are the guardrails that you would recommend, or that you maybe not recommend, but what would you want to see?
Yeah. That's something, especially since the Workday fiasco that kind of popped up a little bit earlier in the year. One of the major players and HRS platforms and ended up catching a major lawsuit because of their applicant tracking system, some of the AI tools that they were using. So that sent a little bit of a shockwave through the AI industry because Workday is fairly large. So this has been a topic of discussion that was at SHRM, that's been in a lot of places. I think with any type of bias, the more angles of perspective that you can put on it, and frankly, you can even use AI to give you more of those angles of perspective, because you can ask it literally to look at it from this way, poke holes from this way. So I think in with anything with bias, right, the more angles that you get from it, right, the less blind spots that you're going to have. And so I think that's just the best way to approach it. So whether you actually have some colleagues or some other people that can help you look at this from another perspective, or if you use the tool itself to, fully create proper prompts so it can look at it as from an angle of a very compliance heavy HR person, or a more employee-centric CFO, right? Like, so different. That's the way I work with my particular AI tools, is that literally have it look at it as different people in different functions with full background stories and everything, so they can give it those different perspectives. So that's always the ways I've tried to approach and combat biases, is just to, remove as many blind spots as possible, because I think that's what leads to a lot of biases. Not all of them, of course. Some of those are ingrained and chosen specifically, but a lot of biases, come from blind spots. So I think just trying to have different perspectives, and either that human perspective or using your literal AI tool to help you gain different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great tidbit for anybody that's out there trying to use these tools. We always say that you need to give it a role, give it a goal, give it some context and some constraints, right? So to your point, act as if you're, a head of HR, or act as you're an employee of this persona, this demographic, right? And to your point, this is not Google search. And I always try to explain, you're having a conversation with something that is close to as intelligent as you. Like, I don't want to, it's smarter than me, but, I'm going to do like, hey, all right, let's just assume it's close to your intelligence. Like, I don't want to make people feel a certain way, right? But the reality is, when we talk about bias, and I always try to remind folks, this thing is trained on the entire internet and the entire world. So if the world has bias, then of course the machine has it, right? You can't blame the baby, right? Like, this is how it was taught. Now, what we have to do is make sure that we are spotting and identifying and understanding the bias, right, that is inherent. I was a couple weeks ago, after I left San Francisco, I had to fly across over to Boston to go to Cambridge to go to AI-powered women's conference over the weekend. And it was at MIT. Dr. Felicia Newhouse put on an amazing program, close to 1,000 women that were in attendance. And we were recording some podcasts, and one of the guests talked about how they were at dinner the night before, and they were playing around with, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or what they were playing around with, but they were kind of going around the table, and there was a group of women having dinner, and they would ask, ChatGPT, for example, based on what you know about me and how I've interacted with you, create an image of what you think I look like.
Ooh.
It was an amazing
Guess what I'm going to do when we get off this call?
I did it real time while I was on camera. And I was like, oh, shit. Let me try this myself, right?
Yeah.
And my result was very similar to theirs. And I use these tools all the time. And then ChatGPT knows everything about me. I've loaded pictures of myself, right? But when I asked it to generate an image, it gave me 2 white men in their mid-50s. And I was just like, man, you don't know me at all. I was like, we're about to break up. Like this is over. I'm going back to Gemini. The game is over. But the thing I try to get across to folks is like, look, you have to better understand how these things work, and you have to be able to understand and recognize and diagnose the bias so that you can then kind of carve it out, right? How do you remove the pain? So let me bring this back to you and back to from an HR perspective and just business in general, or I would say more culture, right? What are, what are some of the things that you're doing? Like, are you in charge right now, or have you, I've seen a lot of HR professionals that are kind of starting to lead the way. I tell them, it's like, you can be a lot more strategic now, right? And especially as it relates to AI adoption. I tell people, I was like, AI affects every single human on the planet, which means it affects every single employee. So it's not an IT thing. It's not a marketing thing. It's not a C-level thing. It is an entire upskilling of humanity. So with that as the backdrop, what role are you playing within your organizations or within your groups as it relates to AI adoption?
My best example, and my only example, is that situation where I just kind of had to force the issue a little bit. I use our interns kind of as an adoption model, right? So, there was a little bit of hesitancy. There was some pushback on using, AI note takers in Zoom. Which ones are we going to use? Is it compliant? Is it secure? And so just take them all away. And so everybody's a little bit scared. And it's frankly, in my particular organization, we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So decisions do take, quite some time. So I just use our interns as a pilot. I knew that some in our TV and film departments, script reading and script coverage was a major part of their component. So I did some research. I called a couple other companies to see which programs they were using. I just said, hey guys, just do this, right? Like, just do your first assignment, just do this, and they come back to me. And with the speed and the clarity that they came back, then I pulled their managers in, and I let the managers, their first line managers know, hey, this was an initiative driven by me, right? So, kind of leave them alone. But, look at the productivity. Like, this is the assignment that you gave them, and they're done before midday. They're able to, take apart and all these other things. So that basically the word kind of spread and just kind of started moving up. And then I was called into our head of films, the head of film, the film studios, called in, and he started, so what is this I'm hearing about that they did 10 scripts and I was like, well, yeah, so here, like, look at the actual coverage. And then I started to explain to him, then actually, James, you know what you could do? You could have them, if you want to, you can create, once again, different critics. You can create different angles that you want to. We have a rubric for the projects that we consider our projects, right? Load that rubric in there, right? And then you can have someone literally judge it against that. And then you can do the opposite. Like, there's so many different things that you can do to get different angles on this. And then you can have the discussion with the person that's generated this. And then you all have the same piece of information to work off of. Once you hear that like that, you got
That
it.
aha moment.
So, it's. I wish I was at a point in my organization. I'm honestly only really at advocacy. This was my only a chance to show adoption and to push adoption, and I kind of had to go a little bit renegade to kind of get it done. So mostly I'm at advocacy now, but what I'm trying to do is for adoption is just get people past that point of just risk, being scared of the risk, and just let's see what it does for you, right? And if it doesn't work, then we'll pivot. But I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So let's give it a try, because we see in all these other places where it is working, and this is where the industry is moving. So, long story short, and what I'm trying to do for adoption is just literally put it in their faces for as many times in many opportunities as I can, really.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell folks you have to figure out what is that unlock moment, that aha moment. And people, reach that moment in different ways through different mediums, right? But once you got them there, like, then the race is on, right? We always talk about AI adoption. It has to be three things, right? It has to be personal, it has to be fun, and it has to be safe, right? And to your point, you gave your team, the interns or whomever, you gave them the air cover, right? You gave them the safety that they needed, the psychological safety. And I always tell folks, I'm like, you can't tell them, go use this thing, and then say, but don't do this, don't mess up that, don't do this. I'm like, hey, man, like, give them a safe space to play around. And what you'll see is that people will start to have their own aha moments, their own unlock, and they'll start to see how this can be valuable. I tell people all the time, it's like, look, as especially as knowledge workers, we spend somewhere around 50% of our time in any given week either searching for things to do our job, copying and pasting, or reformatting data. 50% of our time. And so I always talk about the idea is like we use AI to flip the time equation, right? You should not be spending that amount of time. I was like, I didn't hire for that, right? I certainly don't want to be that. And so when people push back on me and they say, well, I feel like AI is not humane in this way. I was like, how is it humane to have someone looking down at their computer 50% of the time versus having engaging conversation and dialogue with their peers, or focusing on top level strategy, or executing on things that we all know are the right decisions, right? And I think the other part that you kind of touched on a bit is that by leveraging AI, you also inherently get diversity of thought in a lot of different ways. People will talk about like, well, it all nets down to the same sea of sameness. I'm like, it depends if you don't know what you're doing, right? If you didn't give it a role, a goal, context, and constraints, then sure, right? It's going to give you the most average thing. But to your point, if you already have a rubric, if you already have some of this data that you can provide as additional context, right? Or if you can pull from a database of things that you know that's worked, right? But I think that these are all great, points for others, right? For you personally, have you tried to quantify it? I ain't trying to get you in trouble because you end up getting more work, right? But have you tried to quantify how much time you feel like you could get back, or the average employee within your organization could get back if they were using these tools more aggressively?
That's for me personally. I'm working towards being able to quantify it, because the point that you mentioned is the human connection portion of it is the part where I'm having to, what is the output for me? Like what is the net gain for me being able to actually sit down and engage with someone, and you know what I'm saying, and look in their eye, and like what is my ROI on that? That's kind of the tough part that I'm trying to figure out, right? But I know for a fact how much time I'm literally freeing up from sitting down at my desk and as you said, I love the way you said reformatting data. Oh my God. Like I just had a like a flashback, a trauma
PTSD
flashback for the moment of times that I've had to kind of just translate and manage up, and just like, all I'm doing is just, okay. Instead of having meaningful conversations, to being able to iterate and do different things like that. But that's an excellent question, and that's something I was literally just thinking about last week. How can I quantify what this free time is returning for me, when I can actually sit down with someone instead of just having to type them a really quick Slack or do other things, like actually have that connection. And I don't know, to be quite frank with you, right? But I know that there is a return on investment for me to be able to genuinely connect. Trying to translate that for my numbers-driven CEO and CFO and other things like that, that's the ROI on emotional connection is where I'm kind of stuck, and be frank. But I know that there is a return on it, and trying to quantify that's the difficult part. Yeah, so I'll be frank, I am kind of stuck on that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks are, right? And I always tell folks, I'm like, look, whenever I'm doing any type of digital transformation or AI transformation, I always say it's people, process, platform, in that order always, right? I say it does not matter what the technology is. If you've not done a skills gap analysis of your people, figure out where they are on the spectrum from curious to anxious to serious, right? If you have not reimagined the processes that you have inside of an organization, a lot of people fail at AI adoption and digital transformation in general because they've not taken a chance to actually reimagine the process, and they try to bolt on this thing. And so last night when I was on stage, I was talking about the idea that a lot of organizations, they have a 10-step process, and now they just throw AI, so now they got 11 steps. Right. And then people complain and they're like, well, I only saw minimal gains. Like, yeah, I don't think the point was for you to just add AI to the end of this. The point was, how do you go from 10 steps to 3 to 5 steps? Right. Bingo. And the traditional kind of return on investment, I'd say to folks from a productivity perspective, is probably about 20 to 40% of your time back doing things that were a lot more mundane or routine. Right. Again, let the machine handle the routine and let the humans handle the remarkable. Right. And so I tell folks, like, if you start with that, start with the end in mind and say, look, on any given individual in our organization, we should be able to directionally get to 20 or 40% time back so that they can focus on something more strategic and elevate. And I think part of what you can start to showcase, rather than simply quantifying it, is start picking up more tasks because you know you have this time back. Start focusing on more strategic things or providing value add, services where it makes sense because you have the time back, right? And so I think that there's a lot of different ways. And then one of the things that's very hard to measure, but I can see in real time, is the smiles that people have, right? The quality of work. And I tell people all the time, I was like, I call out a lot of executives and I say, look, there's all these headlines of AI is going to replace me, right? AI is going to take jobs. I say, so when you talk about all your business outcomes and all this, like, we're going to be more profitable, we're going to grow our business, we're going to leverage AI, and you don't even stop to tell your employees where they fit in the story arc, now you've got 90% of your employee base rowing against you because all they heard was AI is going to replace me, right? So you have to start making it understand, how is it going to be personal, fun, and safe? How is it going to increase their quality of work? And then they're going to all roll with you, right? And so that is a challenge. And that's why I think that, folks like yourself that are in this position, one of the things I talk to folks about all the time about is like, hey, well, why won't AI replace me? I was like, look, I say, here's the deal. The human edge is probably the hardest thing. The human spirit is the hardest thing to scale in the age of AI. I have an AI manifesto that I talk to folks about all the time here, and I promise I'm going to get to a question here in a second, right? But the point I try to get across, because you're the perfect guest. Like we got like a no food rule when it comes to talking on this podcast, and the whole reason is every single guest, we would ask them how they were using AI, and almost every time the first thing they say is recipes and cooking, right? But see,
Right.
look, but you're actually a chef, right? So I can have this conversation with you. But one of the analogies I always use for folks, and I talk about, say, look, it's more about your domain expertise and what are the things you know about, and you use AI to augmented intelligence, right? And so the analogy I always use is, now I have to replace it, but I was like, you give me 4 ingredients to cook a meal, it's going to be okay. If I give the same 4 ingredients to Kerry Prince, it's going to be amazing. Now, I usually say Bobby Flay, but you're on right now.
Hey, I'll take it.
So, but the point I try to get across is it's not about replacing you. It's about taking someone that has some level of domain expertise and 10Xing that person. So with that in mind, what are you seeing as, I guess, within either your own role or the folks that you work around them? Like, how do you think that they could be 10X with some of these tools? Like, is there any kind of thought process of, like, I'm sure you have thoughts on how other people should be using these tools.
I can go around each one of my particular departments. Now, I do actually have, I guess, a fellow advocate within my organization, our chief strategy officer. He is a heavy AI user, once again, for the mundane tasks and things like that. So I do kind of have a partner in that particular front. But, I have ideas, from my entry level all the way up to my executive level. I think the best way to, in my particular realm, where I'm at now, is every time you ask me this, I start thinking about, man, when I was at KCRW, you could have done this. At Claire Matrix, I could have done this. Once again, it's being in those different verticals and bringing that knowledge and that empathy, the variety of, I'd say, like empathetic experiences that I've been able to have in other places, right, and bring that kind of in here. But I'd say the majority of it is going to be in, as I mentioned earlier, the script reading, script note taking, things of that nature. But I do think what happens a lot with my executives, and they are so far away from the frontline things. And this happens, actually, I've seen this in pretty much every vertical I've been in. The further you get away from your frontline activities, the things that actually run your business, the more kind of obtuse the directives are that come down, right? Because you're just kind of further away from the work. I think in my particular realm now, I think it can be best utilized for my higher level executives. Like, help me find all of my blind spots. Help me think like my assistant. Help me think like my junior executive right now, instead of this high level and where I'm at, right? Like, help me look at it this way. So I think as I'm making this decision, how will this be received from someone who's working here, right? So I think that's the best way for my executives, instead of just kind of raining things down and And it's just making the gap further and further away, because the person on the front line is like, you have no idea what I'm doing, and this is not helping me at all. And to mention, to piggyback on something you said earlier, helping people feel safe. Maslow was right? Like it's old, but Maslow was right? Like people do need to feel safe. So I think just kind of helping my executives poke holes in everything before they just rain it down, right? Is this going to help? Is this going to help my employees, as you mentioned earlier? I think you brought it down, right? Personal, fun, and safe, right? So is it whatever our particular rubric is for whatever organization it is, help me filter this decision through that before I just kind of rain it down, because I'm literally just giving this my one perspective at the moment. And I hope I kind of roundabout answered the question there, but I think that's the best way for my particular organization. As I said, get the note to the mundane stuff. Let the machine handle the routine. I'm going to steal that. I'm using that a lot, so I can steal it. But also for my high level executives, just help them regain their touch with their staff and the things that they used to do. Every one of my executives used to be an assistant, used to be a junior executive, every single one of them. But also I'm in meetings having conversations with them, and they're like, well, man, they're lucky that I can't treat them how they used to treat me. Are they lucky, or are we just better as an organization? Right. So it's like help me help you. Let the tool help you, become someone who can kind of see more sides of the particular issue.
No, I mean, that was a lot of great points there, even going back to like the empathy piece, the ability. There are a lot of folks that can be very tone deaf, and it is not natural for some executives to connect, across. I think you'll hear a lot of folks say that we're in this age of like kind of the Renaissance age of like generalists, right? And there's a lot of organizations that are flattening out because they can use these tools to have, greater kind of not just visibility, but connective tissue across. I mean, there's 5 generations in the workforce, right? To your point, right? The things that we, were brought up on, even like as parents, we talked a little bit about our kids. I can't, I am not going to do to my kids. I'm not trying to have child services show up at my house.
Right,
like,
exactly.
But what I tell folks all the time, though, is that, there are the 5 C's of humanity that AI, at least right now, can't replace, right? And that's curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, right? So if you net down on those 5 things that make us humans, right, and then abstract that out, and then allow the machine, again, going back to the routine or the mundane, right, then you start to realize, like, all right, what is it that I do in my job that is more tied to these 5 C's and what is not? Right. And so you start to map out the processes. What are you doing? It's like, oh, is your job to copy this thing and then to paste it over there? Then, yeah, AI is not replacing your job. AI is going to replace certain processes that make no sense as to why we are manually doing that. Right. And even for interns, people will say, well, what about entry level folks? Right. And this and that. I was like, I know people that used to just have interns go get coffee and go run around and run these tasks. I was like, they didn't learn shit about the company or the work they needed to do. Right. And so I was like, look, there's nothing humane about that. That's not a great learning experience, right? This is not Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid, paint the fence, sand the floor. Like, no, man, we passed that.
There's
right?
no hidden meaning here. No, you're just going to get my coffee.
Yeah, like exactly, right? And so we're getting close to time here. Let me ask you just a couple more questions. Then I want to play a little game with you. I hope you got your phone with you. All right, so I'm sure people want to understand. Well, first of all, but my first question is, why did you lose MasterChef?
So you know what? Hey man, you want to get a reveal on your show? It's something I've.
Oh, did you really win?
About. No, I didn't. I didn't win, but so here's what actually happened. So I was quote unquote disqualified. So and once again a reveal. I was there 2 months. And in the back of my mind, so there's no pay. We get a little bit of per diem to eat. Funny enough, they didn't feed us all the time. So after about 2.5 months, I'm worrying about my bills and my job. right? So it's a little bit hard for me to focus. They're moving us around every day, to hotel to hotel. They purposely do stress you out a little bit. So I was kind of checked out, Greg, I'll be honest with you. So on that particular dish, if anyone happens to watch my elimination, there was a point where I was making a sauce. It was a little too loose. I kind of spilled it all over the plate. So between me and you, Greg Boone, I'll tell you this for the first time. I put that on my plate and I was like, damn, I can go home and it won't look like I quit. I'm tired of being here. Then 15 seconds later, my competitive nature kicked back in. It was like, "Wait, what are you doing?" And so then I tried to hustle again a little bit. That was one of the only challenges where usually at the end, they were like, "Hey, we're done." But on this one, we had to take our plate and run up to the front and like put it down on the thing. So technically I didn't get my plate down in time. But if you watch the show, I lost because of something on my plate. But it was actually that. So if it wasn't for that maybe 15, 20 seconds when I kind of gave up, I would have advanced because there was someone else. The lawyers had to talk to me after this too. It's kind of weird how this all happened because there was someone else whose dish was horrible. His food wasn't even done. And so they had to do some camera magic to make his food look better than mine because the world needed to know I lost because of my food and not putting it up on the thing.
Wow.
So yeah. So the reason I lost because, frankly, I did not want to be on TV is another reveal. I didn't move to California to be on TV. I actually auditioned for MasterChef because I lost a bet while I was working for Whole Foods. And then after I auditioned, producers keep calling you back, and I just got caught up and was like, "Hey, I'll try it."
I have this recollection of us having a barbecue at my apartment and a big fire and some eyebrows or something getting singed or something. I don't know, but
that was, I do remember that, and I think that was, well, it wasn't me. It was not me.
But it was within our friend group, and then someone said, "I was like, I don't know if we're the right people to be out there on MasterChef based on how we used to grill out." But
no, man. So that's one of the beautiful things that, like, kind of taking it back to AI a little bit. Like, I've always been someone that's just like I've ingested a lot of information. I've always loved information. And with cooking, I'm never going to know everything. So that's why I'm really drawn to it. So in this new world of AI, when I can now quickly, like, I know a recipe for tom yum, so these Thai soups, but all right, hey, I want to put a quick spin on this, right? I know these other herbs go with this. Give me a few other herbs that may go with it, right? So I can quickly kind of combine things and do other things that it's such a breath of fresh air for me with cooking. It is just passing like, "Hey, give me a recipe for this." It's me literally having conversations about, all right, well, why isn't this herb used here? Because it doesn't grow there, and doesn't work with these particular elements. So I'm loving the AI in the culinary lens for myself. Aside from HR, there's so many uses and things there. It's making my life easier. But the love and the passion for me is when I can have these iterative conversations and really get creative, not just with e-colors with my business, but with, just, hey, I want to put a different little twist on this, a different little spin. Let's talk about it. And then I end up in a place where I've literally kind of created a new recipe, having a conversation with my sous chef. And that's what I call it in chat. I created the sous chef.
That's awesome, man. We talk about this, custom GPTs and things like that. And every time we're doing an AI training, or even, I'm running a creative company that I've reimagined as an AI fluent growth management consultancy, right? And so one of the things I talk a lot about is like, look, when photography was first introduced, it didn't kill off painting and painters. Right, when motion pictures came around, it didn't kill the camera. Right. Every kind of invention, we have an opportunity to create things that we could have never imagined before. Right. And so, to your point, you may be able to create dishes that we never could have really thought about. Right. And that's the thing, is like the creativity can be endless is if you embrace it. Right. The whole reason why I call this podcast AI Voice of Victim, I tell people all the time, I say, you can either ride the wave or get crushed by it. Right. There's this tsunami that's coming, and there's this weird phenomenon that's happening where, like, I get people running for the hills. Right. I somewhat get the people that are like, I'm going to try to surf that big ass wave. What I don't get is the people that just stand on the beach watching to get crushed.
Yes.
Right.
You see it coming.
And you see it. You're just standing there, and you're either in awe or fear. I don't know what it is. Right. And so what I tell folks is I say, look, My dad is a retired truck driver, and his one lesson for me in driving was keep it between the ditches and don't stop in traffic, right? He's like, you got to keep moving, son. He's like, I don't care. He's like, because you will get crushed. He said, especially someone in a big rig like me. And so what I try to tell folks all the time is like, you got to keep it moving, right? And, it's the old kind of rocking horse, like don't confuse motion for progress, right? Just because you're rocking back and forth, right? You ain't going nowhere. Right. And I think more people need folks like you. So we're going to get to this last segment we call Last Chat. That's where you're going to pull up, whether it's your sous chef or what. You pull up your last chat. We're going to tell the world what were we doing in our last chat.
So I started off actually giving it context and background. Said I'm doing a podcast with a very old friend of mine, and who, when we knew each other, we were not very serious, but we are very serious now in our industries. I literally put all of this.
Speak for yourself.
So I was like, that's your context. Then I uploaded the document and I said, I'd like to be able to have a thoughtful conversation, but not sound like I'm scripted. I won't be reading these off the cuff, but, I'd like to have some notes. And it kind of, it popped out the note for me because I used this in one of the projects where I've done what you've done. I've uploaded everything about myself and it knows me, my MasterChef background and everything. Like I've taken a long time to write a bio. So, I've had it help me. I had it help me with some notes that I have not referred to at all since we've been on the call because I have my phone right here. But I used it to say it kind of helped me with some notes and some thoughts and just different things before coming on. I use it a lot for preparation. And I can give you the real interesting one though, and I don't know if we have time. It was
Go ahead.
Is the one I kind of have before that. So it's I'll give you some context. I'll give you a little bit of chisme, a little background on my organization. I'm having a situation right now where I'm working with two different hiring managers who's going to hire one assistant. They're very different personalities. They have very different needs, very different thoughts on what they want, and they're also both very pushy. So what I literally told I was like, I need to Jedi mind trick both of these associates, both of these executives to do what I want them to do and make them think it was their own idea. Let's talk this out. Right. And so, yeah. So, and because, I remember watching a video. Have you seen this? It's like a kindergarten teacher, and she's using an example of like narrative and descriptive language. And she had all of her students to like, tell me step by step how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then she follows each step. You know what I'm talking? Have you seen this? I use AI like that. Like if you give it bad directions, you're going to get bad things out. So I over explain and give a lot of context within my thing so it can really have my thought process and we can really have a conversation. So yes, my last two were helping me be able to talk to you and help me Jedi mind trick two executives.
No, that's awesome. The the concept that in AI they call it I think it's Polanyi's paradox, which effectively says that as humans, we know more than we can say, right? And so the whole point is if you ask someone how to ride a bike, they'll give you very surface level things, but there's millions of things that actually go on to be able to effectively ride a bike, just like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And so there's an actual psychological term for that. And it's the thing that the reason why I always bring it up, I remind people, I'm like, to your point, if you don't give enough context, like, of course it doesn't know. As humans, we hallucinate too if we have limited facts, limited information, right? The difference is these things are trained not to say, I don't know. They're literally trained.
They're going to give you something.
Right, because hallucination is a feature. It is not a bug. It is called generative AI for a reason. Its whole intent is to generate something, right? And if it did not hallucinate, which effectively meaning if it couldn't dream up or say what is the most predictable thing based on these circumstances, then you wouldn't be able to come up with these new recipes or figure out how, what is the job of in 2030. Right. And part of the challenge, I think, for folks a lot of times is understanding this difference that traditional software and technology has always been deterministic, if then, right, or if then else, right? Now it's probabilistic and it's very challenging. And so what I try to tell folks, I'm like, I could put the same prompt in 5 times in a row. I am not going to get the exact 5 things back. It's just not how that works. Right. It's just like if we were to do this episode over again, we're not going to have the exact same conversation every time. Right. It's just not cool. Well, at least one of us is not a robot. I don't know which one, but I'll tell you my last chat, which is I was smiling when you were talking about yours, because I do this all the time. Last night, I was on a speaking panel in front of a couple hundred folks. And I said, based on what you know about me, how would I answer these 11 questions? And then I loaded in the entire document for AI State of the Union panel that I'm sitting on. These are my guests. Here's some additional context, right? And then it gave me some things, and I was like, nah, I didn't really tell it the format. And things I was like, I don't know, man, that's a little too deep in this area. Why don't you add in my AI manifesto on the human edge? And then it got too deep on that. Now, so I was going back and forth, and I was like, and then it starts to offer me these things like, hey, do you want to put this on a little sheet so you can print out, or a battle card or whatever? I was like, yeah, do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I always explain to folks, this is not Google, the traditional Google. Like even Google's moved to AI mode into AI search, and Gemini, I use it quite a bit as well. But this has been an amazing episode, my man. Longtime friend. I'm glad we're able to do this. Hoping I can come to California at some point and catch up and get, I've not had an amazing Chef Kerry. What were you Captain Kerry? What were you on this show?
Nothing. And
He gave you a
Kerry
nickname.
Prince.
What did Gordon Ramsay? He gave you a nickname.
It was. I was captain of a team one time. I think it was Captain Kerry actually.
Yeah, I think you were Captain Kerry, and I was like, and someone, I was telling somebody, I was like, I know that guy. They're like, Captain Kerry? I was like, well, I'm not gonna call him that. But yes, I know who that is.
Well, I'm gonna isolate that little clip right there. I'm gonna find a way to do that if you calling me Captain Kerry, and that's gonna be my
Captain
ringtone.
Kerry. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, Captain Kerry. Keep up the great work, and it was a pleasure having you on the show.
It's a pleasure being here, man. Once again, it's just, I love seeing our growth, man. I love being at this point in our lives, not just interacting with AI, but just, being people who can lead change and lead people. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on AI, Voice or Victim. If you want to stay competitive in the AI age, start now. Take one insight from today's episode and put it into practice in the next 24 hours. Make sure to follow us, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more actionable AI insights. See you next time.